So, I was wondering, why do you always pick on swords so much? I think it's really good. I love the Zelda games, and sup, nerds? Oh, look at the time. I've got a new video to work on with a silly intro. Better get going. Bye! So I was just chilling, hanging around when I thought I heard some nerd talking about a copy ability. Those are such loser talks, right? No, I rather like copy abilities in Kirby, actually. I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that, nerd. If you're playing Kirby, you gotta play it cool, and copy abilities aren't cool. How are they not cool? Doesn't, like, everybody love Kirby copy abilities, especially the hats? Don't worry, nerd. I used to be a lost soul like you. Then I saw the light, and now I'm the coolest pup in town. And all because I don't use copy abilities. Here's why that's the case. Wow, Klaire is really bad at writing chunks. Okay, I've had my fun. I love copy abilities. And while I'm definitely what many would call a nerd, it's got nothing to do with that. You could be the normiest football jock and gush about how cool you think, I don't know, artist Kirby is for all I care. They were cool, and I love them. However, one thing I've certainly noticed over the years is that when people are talking about their favorite abilities, nobody really ever brings up regular old Kirby. You know, Kirby is shaped like a friend, a jolly fellow, regular and normal Kirby. And while nothing isn't a copy ability, oh my god, wait a minute, it is! Basically, copy abilities are cool, but so is Kirby with no added bells and whistles. And nothing proves this more than the many games in the series that have NCA speedruns. What the heck is NCA, you may be asking? Why, it's so obvious. It stands for, please like and subscribe, cut to the channel if you, enjoy the video. All of those things really help, and I'd very much appreciate the support. Thank you. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, consider becoming a pup train on Patreon for neat perks, including early access to videos such as this one. Special thanks to my head-patting Fluffle fan pup trains, Biohazard, the Serval who likes strawberry Pop-Tarts, Lydia Scribe, Vilafar, and remember, the 4 best game is super cool and awesome and stuff. I love you all. As much as I hate to admit it, NCA doesn't stand for whatever I just said before. It's good advice, I'd still follow it, but unironically, it stands for no copy abilities. It's very obvious what that entails. No copy abilities. I guess if you're that pedantic, you can say NKO for normal Kirby only, but NCA has a nice ring to it. And because of that, I'll be calling this NCA for the rest of the video. Optimal and Kirby games and in video speed. What an amazing pup I am. Anyway, Kirby speedruns are absolutely insane with abilities, showcasing some of the most bonkers tech you could possibly imagine. How could you remove abilities from the equation and still make Kirby speedruns fun? A lot of ways, but as good of a point as any to start with would be the very first game in the series, Kirby's Dream Land. As many of you know, this game is unique. In many ways, actually, but the most relevant being there aren't any abilities. You're forced into NCA for the sucker, and while that may make it sound like a drag, it's actually the most popular Kirby speed game of them all. A big part of that is the simplicity. The run takes under 10 minutes if you're that crazy, and on average it really shouldn't take you any more than 15, maybe 20 minutes. It's a simple to understand run for anyone, but just because it's simple doesn't mean there's nothing cool about it. I've talked about Curry Kill in the past. Check this video out for more info on why Kirby's bad breath takes lives, but Dreamland 1 in general is just a really fun game to get through quickly. The game is just simple, but enemies are placed in ways that keep you aware and attuned. Casually, it may all be a bit basic, but when your goal is to go really fast in a game this short, any mistake is costly. On top of that, as heavy as RNG is on the highest level, below that, it's mostly irrelevant. You'll notice when RNG messes things up, but it likely won't cost you a personal best time, or a race against friends, or whatever, until you actually get really good at it. It's just fun, and it doesn't need abilities to be fun. I did a quick run for B-roll footage, or for P-roll. The P stands for pup, which should showcase the fun of the game well enough. NCA extends far beyond the philosophical machinations of Well, I gotta, though. In a game like Nightmare in Dreamland, NCA is still a really fun category. I think the big appeal of NCA in this game largely comes down to the simplicity of it all. In regular runs, you need to use a lot of different abilities, get a lot of different mixes, and have the know-how to make them all work. It's a blast, and I would never knock it for that, but sometimes you just want to pick up a game like this and run it without having to worry about all that. The Meta Nightmare, as genuinely amazing as it is, certainly is not what I'd call a more lax run either. You have less health, Meta Knight's movement is trickier to get a good grasp on, and combat is fast, but also risky due to the CQC nature of Sword. CQC, huh? The puppy knows Metal Gear, huh? I made this joke like 2 or 3 weeks ago in another video, huh? Despite not comparing to the blazing speeds of Wheel and Burning, nor the vertical insanity of High Jump and Ball, normal Kirby movement isn't slow by any means. Nightmare in Dreamland NCA is actually very fast, not only due to Kirby's good run speed, but also the general speed of their jumps, the strength of star bullets against bosses and mini-bosses, and the loose physics Kirby is given. You never feel constricted or restrained, which is really nice. Even in something like 7-2, where all you do is fight mini-bosses. You won't be getting ball times, that's for sure, but you can still clear it quickly if you stay focused and know what to do. As for levels, there's a general rule of thumb to follow, which really applies to most games in the series. Whatever keeps you moving fastest, stick with that. This could be a lot of things, but in Nightmare's case, it mostly boils down to running, like literal running. If there's a grounded enemy in your way, of course, you just jump over them, but staying grounded and going zoom, zoom, zoom by doing the run, run, run works wonders. Even floating, while not often recommended, can come in handy. If you float and immediately air puff, you not only kapow any enemies in front of you, but you also keep your movement and momentum going above bottomless pits, or at the very least, tricky platforming areas. Floating only really makes you go slow if you hold it, but if you can get into a rhythm, yes, there's a lot of things I say and like 99% of my videos, get used to them, floating will really help you out. Running and jumping are still better, but you have far worse options. While we're on the subject of games that control just like Nightmare, let's talk Amazing Mirror. Obviously, a lot of what I have to say about Nightmare carries over, except not really, because this game went kinda crazy in really random and specific spots. Sure, playing casually, it can be hard to notice the difference, but holy moly, if you start a run, jump, land, get into a hypnotic trance by doing it, the speed increase is crazy. Even floating works a little differently. I talk about this specifically a lot in my video about how Parasol very suddenly became amazing in this game. Golly gee, I love self-promoting, especially about Parasol. Watch it here. But to make it simple, you can preserve your momentum by running in a float and letting go of whatever direction you're running in as your float starts. If you puff quickly enough, the additional distance you can get is pretty nice. It's not as good as what Parasol gets out of it, but unlike Parasol, you can actually make mistakes and not have to panic. Wild. A general appeal of NCA for any Kirby game really is that you never have to worry about losing your ability. In most, if not every other game, Kirby can lose their ability through so many different methods. Getting it back can cause a bit of a panic, and losing a run over a stray mistake that you weren't able to correct in time can genuinely feel devastating. I've been there, I get it. With NCA, you just don't have to worry about that stuff. You still get to flex your creativity and epic gamer skills with a Z, though due to how these games work. I've already talked about momentum preservation for NCA, but with Amazing Mirror, the nature of the game being a sandbox really lends itself to creative strats. NCA has a lot more appeal than just what I've been talking about though. All of these runs are, while notably longer than their regular any % counterparts, are pretty short in the grand scheme of things. What if we did NCA in a game like, I don't know, let's say Triple Deluxe, which not only takes a lot longer, well over an hour with abilities, but also requires routing similar to Amazing Mirror thanks to the Sunstones. In most of the modern games, NCA is largely unexplored for reasons I can get into later, but being unexplored doesn't mean that it's bad. In fact, I'd say TDX NCA, and probably Robobot NCA by extension, are undiscovered gold mines. The routing for Sunstones changes so much, but you don't have abilities to make things go faster or slower. Some Sunstones you go after in any % simply aren't worth it, or straight up would be impossible without abilities. You never really get soft locked or anything either. Don't underestimate how epic normal Kirby is, but there would still be enough changes in how the game is played to warrant more looking into. And that's just the Sunstone's regular movement would still change drastically, and unlike regular speedruns, who am I kidding here? Unlike regular playthroughs, Hypernova wouldn't be obnoxious. You'd still be able to skip most of it, like in a regular speedrun, but being abilityless would match how you are for the rest of the run, unlike a normal playthrough. Finally, a category where I can like Hypernova, by removing as much of what it makes it unique as possible. Oh, finally. The big drawback of NCA for Triple Deluxe would easily be the boss fights. If you aren't quick with these, they really drag. Part of the fun, of course, is trying to clear them quickly because of that, but out of all Kirby games, this one punishes you with bosses that just do nothing the most. I don't like this casually much either. It's one of the things you'll find me whining about TDX the most. But in a speedrun, it's even worse. Yeah, I don't know, maybe someone crazy enough can find ways to make NCA bosses go a lot faster, even outside of the arenas. Not impossible, but highly likely to not be possible. I've been talking a lot about the unique routing that goes into NCA, but sometimes you don't even need to have a game with branching paths or an unlockable item count. Take Kirby's Dream Land 2, for instance. You can obviously do NCA with this, but how about extending that to animal buddies? I just made this up in my head because it sounds funny, but pretend Encanab, no copy abilities, no animal buddies, is a legacy category for Dreamland 2. Or, for when people talk about all the time and then nobody ever actually runs, don't even limit copy abilities and just do a run without Coup. Or stick with NCA, but only allow Kirby, Kine, and Rick. Go a step further, make it Kirby and Rick only. Or really challenge yourself and go with Rick only. Devilish. Copy abilities basically made this series' only limits be what you can imagine, and while I'll always love them for that, I think it's super cool that you get options like this in a game like Dreamland 2. I'm actually very interested in what a no coup run would look like. I've been for a while, I just don't care enough to play Dreamland 2. Whoops! But when recording for this video, it really hit me just how insane it would be combining coup-less with ability-less. Or NCA and... Oh my god, no coup allowed. That would just be NCA too. It's really funny. And one more quick note. This can mostly work for Kirby's Dream Land 3, but there are 1 or 2 levels where, even in a regular any %, you would need Kine or Coup to proceed. Kinda lame. What's not lame, nice segue, is that spin-offs have copy abilities too. You'd think spin-offs would open up a world of possibilities for NCA, but with some exceptions, they kinda don't. In most of the spin-offs, abilities aren't how they normally are. They act less like power-ups and more like selectable characters. Sure, in a game like Kirby Clash, you get Sword, Beam, Hammer, and Doctor, but you select a character prior to starting a boss fight. You can't ever get to normal Kirby because there is no normal Kirby, hence no NCA. Or, yes, copy abilities, being a double negative and all. Anyway, not all spin-offs follow this trend, and while you'd expect me to talk about Dream Course, because I've been talking about that game a lot lately, I don't like shutting up about it, the most interesting NCA spin-off of them all is easily the DS's Canvas Curse. As is, abilities in this game have an interesting quirk where they don't stick with Kirby when you exit a level. This includes finishing a level too. You only get to use Balloon Kirby when the game says so! This already helps NCA's case, but the cherry on top is the insane movement found within the game. As it is, if you tap Kirby, they'll do a dash, which makes them move faster. Look, I can't blow your minds every time, okay? You can tap really quickly to make them do successive dashes, but not only is that torture on your hands, it's not easily sustainable for an entire run. A little known fact though, if you draw a full circle around Kirby and then keep the line going, Kirby will actually do a permanent dash until you run out of ink. Or hit a wall or something, use your imagination here. This opens up a world of possibilities for moving fast, since you're not limited by abilities. The issue with Canvas Curse, rather, is the actual act of staying normal. One wrong move, and by that I mean dashing into the right enemy, it's really easy to get abilities in this game, and that tempting, law-breaking ability will be yours. Wait, I'm telling you why NCA is cool, not about how amazing being an anarch puppy is. Sorry. In my book, even if you get an ability, as long as you immediately discard it, I don't really see the issue. Canvas Curse NCA isn't something commonly ran anyway, namely since Canvas Curse isn't a popular speed game, but a lot of any percent strats can be carried over. I've talked a few times in the past about how normal Kirby in this game is just the best normal has ever been, so if you want to run the NCA games with the best default Kirby, at least in my opinion, this is your game. Or Dreamland 1, I guess, but this game actually has abilities, which makes it a lot more exciting. The thrill of not using them makes it all the more fun. Live for that thrill, as the Anarch pups say. God darn it, I did it again. Sorry. Unfortunately, not every game is fun for NCA. I strut my stuff like I'm the coolest pup for running it, but you'll come across games that just don't work as well. My go-to example for this is Kirby 64. But first, have you ever wondered what I smell like? Hey, don't click off the video, I promise this isn't anything weird. I'm just saying, if you want to know my scent, I have a candle! It is called the Vanilla Fluffle Scented Candle, and I think it came out really, really well. At the checkout, you can either decide to get a normal candle or one with a wooden wick if you like to hear that crackling sound. I don't think that's it, but that's the sound that I wanted to make in the moment. Not only is this website a trusted source, and you can have a little more Fluffle in the house, and if you use the link in the description down there, you will also be supporting me for no extra cost. Thank you very much again to Candle for this opportunity. This isn't a sponsored video or anything, I just wanted to let you guys know I have a candle now. Now, on with the video! If you've played this game without using abilities and loved it, more power to you, but a huge part of the appeal of this game, for many people, revolves around mixing abilities. Even talking any percent speedruns, Burning plus Kirby, as I'll call it, it's only one burning, is the high execution and total blast ability in terms of finding a good rhythm. Meanwhile, Burning plus Burning replaces high execution for insane speeds and ease of use. Don't even get me started on Hundo either, which has nearly limitless creativity packed in. Replacing all of that with this just doesn't cut it for me. Remember that Dreamland 3 Hundo video I uploaded a while ago? Watch that video too, please. Yes, I'm a very needy pup. Yes, I fit the bill for being puppy very well. Where I walked at the start instead of running just to showcase how slow it was. As a joke. The run speed of Kirby 64 is just way too slow for it to be an entertaining run. Return to Dreamland is another one where I can see NCA running into some issues. The super abilities notwithstanding, they would be required in some cases, but with that being the case, we can slap the good ol' "it's fine" on it and leave it be. The run would largely just be slide kicking. And unlike what abilities bring to the table, slide kicking is a lot less interesting. What people describe a wing as in this game would literally be what NCA could turn out to be, you know? Personally, I'm actually quite interested in what NCA offers for this game. I run ability solos, check out those two in their playlist. Okay, fine, I'm done shilling, please forgive me with hot pie. And seeing what every ability can do is always wonderful. The act of discovery is enough for me, at least with this game, and I don't think normal Kirby would be an exception. But unlike your TDXs and your Robobots, this doesn't have any unique routing for the Sunstones or Code Cubes. You just slide kick the whole time, fight some mini-bosses, and demand Mangler give you your money back from Kirby Clash. A satisfying ending for sure, but I definitely think that would be a turn-off for many. But not me, I've already played Return to Dreamland a million times. What's one more playthrough gonna do? Klaire, are you gonna mention slide kicking stinks in Return Deluxe, then all you need to do is run normally? Okay, there, I brought it up. As I always do in these videos, I've decided to save the best game with NCA for last. What would you do, though, if I told you there were actually 2 games that I wanted to talk about? Both of these games, for me, are peak NCA and showcase their respective games' mechanics fantastically. For starters, we need to talk about NCA in Kirby's Adventure. I did talk about Nightmare in Dreamland earlier, but if you've played 5 seconds of both games, you'll know how different they are in terms of mostly everything. I think both games are really good, but I'm definitely Team Adventure. And for NCA, it's just not even close. Adventure rules. A big part of this boils down to Kirby's movement and physics. As you'd expect by this point, I'm sure. Out of every Kirby game ever, Adventure is the one most influenced by things like terrain and slopes. If you can, turn on Kirby's Adventure, any version of it, and find a slope. Any slope, doesn't matter, still. Run down that slope, and then jump. That's it. No fancy speedrun tech, no UFO glitch, no using Tornado for 95% of the game. Just run down a slope and jump off of it. Once you do, I'd like to assume you could figure out why NCA is such a good category, but of course there's more to it than just that. Adventure is unique in many ways, including how speedrunners have to keep lag reduction in mind. Usually this boils down to using Tornado in the right spots to strategically destroy everything in sight. You can make anything sound epic if you're epic enough. With normal Kirby though, that strategy turns into real strategy, as you still need to make sure the game isn't getting the snot beaten out of it while you are running. Hey, you look out for the game looks out for you. The most mafia speed game of all time. So for real though, it's super interesting, given you still need to go fast. No matter what, this is still a speedrun. But I get it. Adventure can feel a bit archaic to some people, and having a big enough brain to not lag an overworked NES game isn't the most appealing to some people. I get it, that makes sense. For you, my friends, I recommend the most popular NCA Kirby game of them all. It's a small little game, you may have heard of it. It's only the best-selling game in the series. Kirby's Dream Land 1 again, baby! Dream Land 1 never died! What's that? I'm making a complete what of myself? The most embarrassing thing you've ever seen? And I'm making it even worse by being very obvious with how much of a troll this is, since the best-selling game is clearly Kirby Slides. For crying out loud, Klaire, the other game is Forgotten Land! End of the adventure sequence and fade to black. Forgotten Land NCA is a beast. Get it? Beast bag. That one was an accident. Anyway, I've talked about this in many videos. I'm not gonna plug anything specific, just go watch every single video I've ever made until you find one where I do. But slide kicking in Forgotten Land is fascinating. Like in the other games, the function of a slide kick is the same, but you get way more out of it here than in any other game. Even in Return to Dreamland, and if you listened to me earlier, or watched the footage, either way I appreciate you, then you know how good it is there. The footage here definitely speaks for itself, but if you don't know or can't watch, you perform a slide kick, guard and then press the A button, and at the end of your kick, do a little short hop, which allows you to maintain the momentum of your slide kick for almost that whole thing, including the jump. And since you short hop, you can quickly perform another slide kick right after. Training slide kicks together is really, really important for NCA. It helps that it's super fun too. If you've ever seen or played a speedrun of Forgotten Land with abilities, you already have some practice under your belt. As it stands, slide kicking into a jump is ideal for when you're using fire, as well as the abilities that don't have much for movement like ice. And while your skips aren't quite as fast, a surprising amount of these still work and save time over going the more traditional route, like the final room of Welcome to Wanderia. You do still need to use some mouthful modes in the game here and there. The minimum mouthful is its own challenge actually, but for strictly no abilities, there's still tons of fun to be had in Forgotten Land. So now do you see why abilities are for nerds, nerd? No, not quite. I don't quite see the appeal at all. Whoa, are you for real? Yes, how come limiting yourself like this is cool all of a sudden? It's stupid, it's impractical. It's cool. No, it isn't. Whoa, random straw puffs I inserted as a joke. What's going on? Why the fighting and the shouting? The video's over. You can I don't know, leave. Get a load of this nerd here. She thinks NCA isn't cool. It isn't! It makes no sense and strips a huge part of what makes Kirby so iconic. Strips? You into that, weird kinky stuff, nerd? What the? Excuse you? Hey, calm down. Look, NCA isn't gonna be setting any world records or anything, but it's still fun. And sure, it may seem impractical at a glance, But some people prefer playing the games this way. And maybe some people want that added layer of challenge to their speedrun. Or maybe they're not crazy about copy abilities. NCA has tons of reasons to want to be played. I suppose that's valid, but I don't think NCA should be the new standard either. It works best as a complement to stuff like regular any percent. The modes that, actually allow copy abilities, these games are unique, 1 in a million, largely because of abilities. Removing that as the main focus is not a good idea. Just let NCA be what it is, a fun side category, while most of the focus goes on showcasing how insane the best abilities can be. I guess so. Hey, nerd, not to sound like too much of a nerd, but I guess NCA isn't all that I made it out to be. No, upon retrospect, even if it sounds like a Saturday morning cartoon, I do see what makes NCA so cool. Maybe I'll try it myself. Then I redesigned them so they both didn't look like me, and then they kissed and lived happily ever after. The end! I've been Klaire, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you around. Bye-bye. What's that noise? Is that... Oh no, oh, a third straw pup. Please don't be. I mean, okay, but Kirby's just like a casual game. Why do you have to ruin it by being a tryhard? Just let me have fun in my game. And don't gaslight me into playing this children's game, you elitist pig. How dare you? Don't you ever have fun with these games? Don't you ever think about Kirby and have joy in your life unlike these filthy speedrunners that do nothing but try to ruin fun?